Hey, good evening and welcome to the February 18th, 2025 regular city council meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Palmer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will Clerk, call the roll.
Beauchamp here. Goodlow here. Lowquist here. Elliott
Here.
Miller
Here.
Palmer
Here.
Thompson.
Okay, before we start, item number 2 on our agenda is normally reserved for proclamations and just for the foreseeable future, given kind of the temperature in the community. It is my responsibility to review proclamations, to decide if they go forward in the form that they were presented, and to decide whether or not we read them or simply sign them. So for the foreseeable future, and I have noticed the next 4 applicants, we're not going to be reading proclamations. I will still sign them. We will acknowledge them in the meetings, and you guys can still see them in your meeting packets. And the second thing that I wanted to address before we get too deep into our agenda is the federal holiday known as Washington's birthday. It never was officially changed over by Congress, and that would be President's Day. The current date it's supposed to occur the third Monday in February, which at one point did align with Washington's birthday, and then there was some negotiation for Lincoln's and Washington's birthday, and the city failed to notice that or acknowledge President's Day in the traditional forum, so that's ultimately comes back to me, so I apologize for that. Item number 3, awards and recognitions. We have none, so we're on to approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 5, consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? You guys can fight about it later. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We move to item 6A, which is page 14 in the packet, and we have a presentation on the wall that heals. There will be an opportunity for public comment.
All yours.
All right. Good evening. I'm Russell Colmore, Kittitas County. And
I'm Henry Johnston, local resident and funeral director. Most of you know me.
we represent the Ellensburg Downtown Rotary, but we also represent all the Rotaries in Kittitas County. We are bringing the Wall That Heals to Ellensburg September 4th through the 7th. This is a 3/4 replica of the wall in Washington, D.C.
You just do the arrow down, or I think click.
The wall will be located out at Rotary Park. This is 375 wide, and at its height is 7.5 feet at the apex. The wall stands for honor, respect, and service. There are 58,281 service members on the wall. 8 are females, 16 are chaplains, and there are 3 sets of father and sons on the wall. Thank you. This is a community effort. We have established our committees. We have quite a few members from Rotaries throughout Kittitas County and communities interested personnel. We still need more people in an effort to get this project done. There will be a procession. The wall will be doing a tour of Washington State. It'll be coming from Spokane, coming to Ellensburg on the 4th. And then once it leaves Ellensburg, it heads up to Port Townsend. The actual education unit will arrive here on the 2nd of September. I've already spoken with Chief Wade, and he assured me that we'll be able to utilize Main Street and then just make a left on 5th and head down Rotary Park. The construction of the wall will take place on September 3rd at 8 o'clock sharp. We are dealing with the military, so 8 o'clock sharp. We need volunteers to come out and help assemble the wall and help open up the education unit. The opening ceremonies, which my partner will take care of, will be September 4th, exactly at 9 a.m., and it will end at 10 a.m. Closing ceremonies will be September 7th. Closing at 2 p.m. At 2:15, we start breaking down the wall. Once the wall is open, it is open for 24 hours a day. So we need volunteers to keep surveillance and help those who are coming to the wall 24 hours a day. Veterans are a different group. They're very private. And they will show up at 2:30 in the morning, 5:15, 1 a.m., 1 p.m. They don't like the crowds. So they're very solemn when they get to the wall. So we need to have personnel there just to help them. The mobile education unit, it folds out, has large video screens, a lot of memorabilia from the actual wall in Washington, D.C., and from the 8,800 communities that the wall has gone to throughout the United States. It's big. Every night, we will play taps. Every morning, reveille. Special ceremonies.
My turn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So just a little bit of background on how this all came together. So April of last year, my husband and I took our kids to Washington, D.C. for what felt like 5 days of doing nothing but walking. If you've ever been to DC, you understand that. But we visited all of the war memorials, and the Vietnam Wall, if you've never seen it in person, it has a different effect than a lot of the other war memorials in DC. And as I got thinking about that, I remembered a funeral director friend of mine in Indiana had mentioned to me a number of years ago that there's this wall that heals that goes around. And so I did a welcome call and applied, and Russell brought Russell on as the, well, actually handed the project to Russell. He's the one that's really taken charge. But it's like, this seems like an Ellensburg kind of thing. And so we got a notification in November that Ellensburg was selected. We got everything sorted out. There is a significant cost due to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund to bring the wall in, which is being evenly split between Kelleher Motor Company and My Funeral Home Johnston and Williams. So those hard costs are being covered. And then we'll be soliciting donations separate. Just, we're not asking for any taxpayer money or city funding to bring this to town. I want to make that very clear. The extent of what we're asking from the city is use of Rotary Park and Brad's time in helping us with some of the logistics stuff. That's it. Okay. So when we started doing the breakdown of committees and whatnot, we looked and there was one for the procession and one for the ceremonies. And I looked at Russell and I said, well, if there's two things I'm good at, it's processions and ceremonies. So and so he and I have kind of evenly divided that out. So every night at the wall, or every evening at the wall, there will be some sort of memorial ceremony. So there'll be one for those affected by Agent Orange. There will be one for our POW MIAs. There'll be one ceremony. So Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, there'll be 3 ceremonies. And we're in the process. This is kind of this has been a work in process, and we're kind of working backwards on our list. So by the end of March, we will have our website fully functional. We will have our social media activated, and we will really be moving forward. One thing I do know, when it comes to these types of events, we got to get the word out early, but we also know that people's attention spans and memories are very short. So we're not trying to overwhelm the community with all the information in March, and have a bunch of people sign up to be a volunteer, only to find out in September that they can't be there. So we will slowly trickle this out. I think it's our intent to at least once every 3-ish months come back and update the council on our progress and what's been happening. So
The picture that you see here is Agent Orange night. The wall is illuminated, usually with bright white lights. On this special night, which is Friday night, the light changed to Agent Orange. A lot of our service members were affected and are still dealing with the tragedies of the war and the ill effects of Agent Orange.
So then one of the other things that'll be out available for folks is if you've had a loved one that has served in Vietnam that wasn't killed in action, but has since suffered, and they don't have to have suffered any of the effects of Agent Orange or anything like that, but if they served in Vietnam, in country, you can apply for them, and they've since passed away. You can apply for them to be included in the In Memory program, which is a way to honor them. The fund has a website set up for this, and then on the mobile education unit, there will be a rotating picture of those in our community and our surrounding communities that have been accepted into the program. They have to have a DD 214 and a couple other things to qualify, but their pictures will be up on the rotation. And then there's also what they call the Hometown Heroes, which is those from Ellensburg or Cle Elum or Kittitas County whose names appear on the wall that were killed in action during the Vietnam War. And then this plaque will be placed on the ground. It'll have ropes around it. And this is a duplication replica of the plaque that appears in front of the wall in Washington, D.C. This is a great opportunity for Ellensburg. We are so appreciative to the city, Heidi and Brad, for helping us kind of navigate everything that we need to make this happen. If there's one thing that I know about this community, it's that when we need volunteers and we need to step up, this community comes together. I am also not tone deaf to the fact that this is coming the week directly, like adjacent, butted up to the end of rodeo and fair, which absorbs a lot of our volunteer corps. So we're hoping we can pull from other areas of the community that would want to help volunteer with this. We really didn't have a choice on dates. You apply, You give them 3 sets of dates, and we told them like September is about the only time we want to do it because we don't want to try to be putting this wall up in spring wind. And if anybody sat through a baseball game out there, spring sports, you know just how cold it gets. So we're hoping September will be the best way to do it. But again, we just want to thank the city for your guys' support, and we will keep you updated as we move along. The big announcement of all of this we have lined up to release on Vietnam Veterans Memorial Day at the end of March. So any questions?
Any comments from the public? Yeah, just very sincere thank you for.
We got one.
Yep. Yeah,
Microphone.
yeah, nobody can hear you on.
We have a new group called American Legion Riders at our club. There's about a dozen, and they're going to escort, my understanding is they're going to escort this from Spokane to here. Okay, and as far as volunteers, how many do you think you'll need?
Post 10,
Post 8.
post 8, okay, all right. Yeah, we got
Okay.
more. We got post 10 too.
How many? Well, I know you're going to get more than that. Yakima Post 36 would be, probably love to get involved in this too.
The more the merrier.
Okay, so, but I know we could draw, our commander right now is a man who was a medic
Uh-huh.
in Vietnam.
Okay.
So I was in at that time, but I wasn't in country.
Okay.
Okay, but volunteers, I don't think you'll have any problem getting volunteers that you need. Once your website goes,
Yeah.
then everyone can communicate with you through that.
Yeah.
But I commend you guys on what you're doing. Seriously.
And we're going to utilize Sign Up Genius
Mhm.
so that people can sign up and they'll get a tickle that they signed up, remembering the time and the date that they signed up.
Super.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
guys.
sir.
Bet.
Appreciate it.
But to answer your question though, number of volunteers across the span, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund estimates it anywhere from 150 to 175 volunteers total. But the good thing is you don't, you can sign up for a shift after work and you can be there for 4 hours after work and you can do that 2 or 3 nights. We don't want 150 people there for all 6 days. So
For those that want to sign up in groups, for example, if you are a Rotary Club or group or students or family and you want to do it together, is that going to also be the best way to sign up together? Is do the Sign Up Genius, or does they contact you directly?
no, everything will be done through Sign Up Genius because it's the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, they've got this down to a science. So they actually have the template for Sign Up Genius that tells us exactly what we need to do. We just drop the code into our website so people can go in and sign up and do what they need to do.
And that's a great question because when we go out and do fundraising, if we can't get a donation, that's okay. We can't get any
Russell, can you move closer?
donation. We still need volunteers. So if your company can't do the top 2, give us a crew that can come out and volunteer.
I just wanted to say, I think that this is wonderful and thank you for doing it.
All right, thank you.
So. Okay, well, we won't take up any more of your guys' time. We know you have. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will probably see you guys again, I'm guessing April or May. We'll be back with another status update.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item 6B, Boards and Commissions, Landmarks and Design Commission appointment. Again, is an opportunity for public comment, and this is page 23.
So council, you have before you a recommendation from the subcommittee of the Landmarks and Design Commission recommending Julia Stringfellow. And she's here with us tonight as the newest member, and it's a slot for a professional for the Landmarks and Design Commission.
Julia, you are invited to come up and speak. You don't have to.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Julia Stringfellow. I'm the University Archivist at Central Washington University and have worked and lived in Ellensburg for almost 10 years and have a passion for local history and very much looking forward to serving on this commission and helping to preserve and bring awareness to our community's rich history. Thank
Okay, I'll
you.
just- Any questions from council?
No.
Comments from public? Okay, is this an affirmation or are we actually making the appointment?
You make the appointment.
Okay, so I need a motion to make this appointment.
I move to appoint Julia Stringfellow to the Landmarks and Design Commission.
Second.
We have a motion second to appoint Julia Stringfellow to the Landmarks and Design Commission. Is there any discussion?
Julia, thank you for serving on the commission.
Absolutely.
Ditto.
Yeah, also I want to say I was in on the interview process. It was a fantastic interview. I'm a super strong yes.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye opposed. That motion passes. Item 7, public comment on non-agenda items. And I will read this as we go here. So we do have potentially script is gone, so I'm just going to remember it. Okay, comments limited to 3 minutes. Don't talk about anything that could be on a ballot. Don't disrupt business, and it has to be about something that the city has control over and that council can do and is not on the current agenda. We have Mr. Coleman signed up for DEI in the city.
Hello, William Coleman, resident of Kittitas. It is amazing. You guys are still holding on to a DEI commission. What is even more amazing is that you still let them and their insidious anti-American discriminatory social agenda manipulate the administrative discourse of this government. Before DEI, the city had no problem announcing national holidays. Since the formation of the DEI, the majority of national holidays celebrating American greatness and culture have been diminished within your media postings. Yet flashy new DEI holidays, which seem to miraculously land on or near national holidays, get banner treatment by the city. You have long made it clear that you are unwilling to acknowledge that DEI policies, wherever they originate from, are designed to undermine the social cohesion of this community. It makes you complicit in one of the largest frauds ever put upon the citizens of this country. And now it is on record for upcoming elections. This government body is absolutely retarded. Seriously.
Candace and federal holidays.
Good evening. My name is Candace Comfort. I'm representing myself and I live in patriotic Kittitas County. I was not planning on being here tonight as my boys were going to have to come with me. But due to a decision made by the city that needs to be immediately addressed, I felt like they should come as I am teaching them how to be future leaders and what that looks like. Yesterday was President's Day, a federal holiday. My boys both know this is such an important holiday for our country that they, along with almost all city employees, had the day off. In fact, we observe 11 federal holidays in our country. However, after submitting a public records request, I learned that the city of Ellensburg does not have a policy on publicly declaring these holidays. I find it disheartening that the city my sons are growing up in hasn't made it a priority to publicly declare these federal holidays or educate our community on them. Yesterday would have been an excellent opportunity for educational outreach, teaching what the holiday is for, and specifically because it has special meaning to our state. Our state was named after George Washington, and President's Day was created to mark his birthday. Instead, the city elected to not even name the holiday that their facilities were closed for and shared random acts of kindness day instead on their social media platform. Kindness is good and should be encouraged, but our federal holidays are also important. If we say we care about equity, this form of picking and choosing what holidays the city partakes and shares in needs to be addressed. To make sure I wasn't missing anything, I went back through the city's social media posts. They elected to not say Thanksgiving in 2024 when they notified people that the city facilities would be closed, but instead only called it a holiday. Then on June 18th, 2024, the city made a social media post about the federal holiday Juneteenth. Not only did they make a social media post about it with its correct name, they made a proclamation about it as well. Because our nation's federal holidays are important to the history of our country, and the city of Ellensburg hasn't adequately acknowledged this, I'm requesting that the city come up with a policy to publicly declare all of the 11 federal holidays when they occur. As As a city that puts emphasis on not having bias, I have no doubt this is something that can and should be done. With holidays that are so important to our country, that this city council meeting had to be moved from yesterday because the city facilities were closed for President's Day to today, we all understand the significance of them and they should be treated as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chance, you've signed up for item 8A. So if that's what you've signed up for, we'll wait till we get to item 8A. We are almost there, but we got to finish 7. Okay. Teresa Plough, federal holidays.
Teresa Plough, 140 Woodhouse Loop, Ellensburg, Washington. I'm also here to talk about the federal holidays. We submitted a proclamation for Constitution Day proclamation to be read, 2020, I believe it was. It was when Unity Park, we requested that Unity Park be used for our event. We were denied that year. We were told the ground was going to be broken by Brad Case and that we would need to move to West Ellensburg, which we did, and that was a great place. But it was kind of hard for us because a lot of us were old and our legs didn't work very good. And we were trying to move these heavy bleachers into position, and it was a really hard thing for us to do. And then the next year, we put in another proclamation to request. I think it might have been through Adam, I don't know. But anyways, you guys approved it and it went by the DEI Commission. At that time, there were changes made in that proclamation, and that proclamation was never really brought to your attention. I don't think that the wording of that was exactly from the federal site in Obama's declaration of that holiday. And it felt like it was censored. It was excerpt, and we just let it go because we just figured we're just happy to get a proclamation to the city. Last year, we couldn't have an official celebration downtown again. We just kind of moved down to Unity Park. We could put in our amp, hope that we'd have a place to have a celebration. Because getting a permit with the city is really difficult. We didn't know how big it would be. So we went down there. But last year there was an illness. I think one of the people in our group had a heart attack. And the proclamation somehow didn't get before the city council. And I was disappointed in that because even if we didn't have a big celebration, it would have been really nice to have had the Constitution Day on there. So if there's any type of policy that we could do to be able to allow the people that care about some of the federal holidays to come forward and share with you what they are and why they're important. And we could, their policy could be changed and some of those holidays could be set in place. I think we'd do a lot for bringing peace to this valley and a sense of unity between the other holidays that one of the speakers spoke about and some that are really precious and treasured by us because of our parents, our grandparents, and that sense of continuity with the people. Am I over time? Maybe. No, I got 20 minutes left. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Andy Clemens, County, and I rise this evening to speak about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I tried to give this talk earlier in December and I was interrupted, so here it goes. First and foremost, DEI at the core of its ideology is based on skin color and sexual preference, both of which are fully covered and protected by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So what is a DEI event? Well, according to our city council, a fly fishing tutorial on the Yakima River paid for by the city using taxpayer funds fits the mold of DEI, but with a caveat. Only non-binary women of color were invited to attend. Now, excluding even one citizen from any event, by definition, is exclusive. Yet this council considered an event that would exclude a majority of the city's population from attending. So that event, that DEI event, is extremely and overwhelmingly exclusive, thus limiting diversity. I can only imagine the strenuous mental exercises that were required of the author of this event to justify the contradictory nature of excluding Ellensburg citizens from a city-sponsored event while flying the banner of inclusion. It gets much worse when the exclusionary criteria is analyzed critically. Who was not invited to this event? Non-binary men of color, of any color, straight men of any color, and straight women of any color. Well, that equates to over 95% of the city's population being excluded from an inclusive event. Now, that's a complete contradiction, and it runs counter to the minds of all reasonable people. So I suggest to any and all who support that event or any other DEI-funded event to re-enroll in English 101 and study your prefixes. You see, N and X are antonyms, opposites. Now, I'm all in favor of a city-sponsored fishing event as long as all citizens are invited. But excluding citizens based on their skin color, well, that's simply racist and wrong and should never be funded publicly or privately. Newsflash, our nation has overwhelmingly elected a new president who has vowed to eliminate DEI in all its incarnations from government, schools, universities, and public places. So read the tea leaves and get with the program or get out of the way. DEI is not just withering on the vine. DEI is already DEAD and good riddance. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak in the audience? We have 3 people signed off offline. They did not put a subject down, and one indicated they don't want to comment, so we will move on, and we are at item 8A. So this is a resolution for consideration of a resolution 2025-03. We'll call for public comment here in a few minutes. That would approve the surplus of portions of city parcels at Reed Park and approving an interlocal agreement with Kittitas County regarding the boundaries and maintenance and responsibility for Reed Park Hillside. And again, there will be an opportunity for public comment, and we are at page 27 in the packet.
Give me a second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Terry Weiner, city attorney. As you mentioned, what you have before you is resolution 2025-03, which accomplishes 2 goals through the attached interlocal agreement. And one of those was to adjust the boundaries between Reed Park and the Kittitas County, the Kittitas Valley Event Center, and the other is to allocate responsibilities for maintaining the hillside between the park and the event center. Just by way of history, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about how we got here, which goes back to the 1880s and 90s. So what you see up before you right now is one of the original subdivisions of the area encompassing.
Terry?
Yeah. Did you read the script?
No, and you
Okay.
participated in my violating procedural law, so I feel like I'm covered. We're going to start over.
Let's start over.
Okay. The purpose of this legislative hearing, this is a legislative public hearing, so we're going to be formal about this, is for the city council to consider adoption of resolution 2025-03, which would approve the surplus of portions of city-owned parcel at Reed Park to be exchanged for portions of county-owned parcels, all for the purpose of adjusting the boundaries between Reed Park and the Kittitas Valley Event Center. The resolution would also authorize an interlocal agreement between the city of Kittitas, the city and Kittitas County approving the boundary line adjustment and also addressing parties' joint responsibility for maintenance of Craig Hill. The public hearing is now open, and we ask for your cooperation in the following. Everybody will be given an opportunity to be heard. If you're online, it's raise your hand or *9 if you're connected by phone. Again, if you stand up to speak, state your name and address, indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or a spokesperson for a group or both. Speak slowly and clearly. One person can speak at a time. Testimony must only address the matter under consideration for this hearing, and any questions of staff are to be directed through council. Each person will be given an initial 5 minutes and more opportunity to speak after everybody has, if that is not enough. And before we hear from the audience, is there a staff report?
Thanks. I'll continue. So this was this subdivision from 1891 of the whole area.
And you can see there's lettered areas there. Those are called the blocks. And then there are some lot lines you can see sort of going down from where it says Craig Avenue. I don't know if my cursor is going to show up very well, but particularly in Block I, the wavy lines are supposed to approximate the hillside below the park. And so as you can see, some of these lots actually go into what is now the Kittitas Valley Event Center. There's 11 lots in there. And then in 1933, as we've kind of flashed forward, there was a deed, that came from the county for property, a couple of different areas of property. This was the second area. This is, if you're looking, this would be sort of down from the entrance of the park, kind of working your way southwest. So this was called Hutchinson and Chapin's subdivision. And there were several parcels in there. And the first 6 or 7 were involved in the transfer later from the Reeds. So we had 2 different transfers, actually 3 going on. One from the county to the city, and then 2 different ones from the Reed family also to the city. All 3 of those deeds were clear that the property was to be used for park purposes. So eventually the park was established there. And there was also obviously the American Legion was deeded property by the county. There was an error in that deed from 1947, I think, and eventually that got corrected. That's not really at issue here at all. Theirs is a carve out within the middle of Reed Park there, I think everybody's familiar with. But somewhere between the 1930s and the 2000s, when the county went online with their assessor's records, some of those records were discovered not to have accurately shown what the property boundaries are. So if you look here, this is the county assessor's map page. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger here. Sorry. Well, let's stick with this as it is. This shows the city parcel that is furthest to the southwest. So it's basically encompasses the park entrance. This would be the first home adjacent to the park, next to the park entrance there. And this is sort of parcel 1 of 3 I'm going to show you. This actually does correctly show city ownership, but as you can see, the parcel line goes into the Kittitas Valley Event Center and crosses a couple of their barns. This orientation is the access road that runs along the toe of the hill. As you move up the park, this is the second parcel here. In the middle of it, covered up by the parcel information there, that is the Legion's property that goes through the middle of this parcel. This parcel also obviously cuts across part of the KV Event Center. And it also incorrectly shows that parcel is owned by the county, even though it is indeed owned by the city. And then the last parcel, as you move up the hill, this one's even a little bit more out of whack, so to speak. This is the one that goes up the remainder of the park, adjacent to the water tower, and it actually crosses into and right across the middle of the rodeo. It's quite a large parcel. And if you go back, go back a little bit, you can kind of see how that happened. You can see this parcel here, which is Block K, actually goes through where, if you can see my cursor at all, it goes through right there. And that was then repeated in the assessor's page. But the other problem with this parcel, besides the fact that it encompasses both Reed Park and a large chunk of the rodeo, is it's shown as being unassigned. In other words, the assessor doesn't show any ownership of this parcel. And this likely happened years ago, and we don't really know exactly why. Those are kind of the 3 issues with the parcel ownership. As a result of this, we got together with county folks, county staff. We started meeting a couple of 3 years ago to try and figure out first the parcel issues. And one of the first things we did was jointly agreed to share payment for the county surveyor to survey the entire area and go through the deeds and the history and figure out what the proper boundaries should be according to the current deed. So talking about bringing us up to date. And so the second issue that we met to discuss with county staff was maintenance of the hill. As we all know, there's been sloughing down the hill for rocks and other materials, gravel for a number of years. And as you are probably aware, the county has some ecology and other concrete blocks that run along the toe of the hill there, right next to their access road, which is basically behind the barns. And they periodically, at least annually, sort of collect that material and haul it off. And so we've been in discussions with them about how to best share that responsibility in conjunction with adjusting the boundaries for the hill. So the first thing we came to agreement on, by the way, this is, sorry, this is so small, but this kind of shows the 3 areas that are in error in those parcels. Okay, Drew, I am going to ask for some help on getting this a little larger so people can see. Should have stuck around. Not sure where the tool is for that. Okay, yeah. Got it. See, okay. There we go. So this is from the county surveyor's proposed boundary line adjustment. And if you're trying to orient yourself to this, these are the 2 sort of most southwest parcels. The one on the left is the one that's actually owned by the city. The one to the right of that is the one that encompasses, or I should say it surrounds the Legion's property. So it's the middle parcel really. And what the city and county have agreed to for your approval tonight, and of course this will be going before the county for their approval as well, is to realign the boundary so that we're bringing in some of that boundary line that was encompassing the fairgrounds and moving the boundary to the access road. Out on your dais, I gave you a copy of a map that sort of shows the overall boundary outlined in orange. And that boundary in orange at the northern edge is along with that dotted line that you see here. So that's the proposed new boundary. There would also be a 10-foot easement on either side of that boundary for both. So in other words, the city would own the southern portion, the county owns north of the border, the new border boundary, and each party would have a right to use that easement for access and maintenance of the hillside. What this requires, though, is correcting the current boundaries from where they are. So it involves a transfer of small portions of the parcels from the city to the county, and likewise 2 parcels from the county to the city. So the first one there, you can see it's a transfer. It says parcel A. So that boundary adjustment is about a little less than half an acre, 0.46 from the city to the county. And then the second one to the right there is transferring 0.05 acres from the city to the county. And then that also shows that the county is then transferring a small portion of their parcel, which is 0.03 acres from the county to the city. And likewise, this is the second sheet there. So now we're moving up towards the water tower, and the last parcel for the city to transfer there is 0.01 acres from the city to the county, and the one in green is transferring a somewhat larger parcel from the county to the city. It's 0.65 acres, and that's because we're pulling part of their big parcel that really the one that's shown as unassigned, and pulling that down to the road, to the access road. So when that's all said and done, we have the new boundary, which follows the access road and makes it very clean, easy to distinguish a boundary for both parties. The city's reconfigured parcel, which is what you have in front of you, in your packet, I think it incorrectly states that it'll be one big parcel, and that's my error. I neglected to note that right now, this parcel on the right-hand side, as I said, is unassigned. So once those boundaries are adjusted, it will, so to speak, inherit the parcel ID of the middle one, which is shown as 095633. So you'll have basically two parcels comprising the park, the one on the far west end, the existing parcel, and then the two that are sort of being combined into one to the east of that. And so the city will have complete ownership of that, and the county will own everything to the north of the, basically the north of the access road. The second issue that the interlocal agreement addresses is that is the shared maintenance of Craig's Hill adjacent to the park, or between the park and the event center. And under the terms of the interlocal agreement, the city will utilize its sweeper to help sweep the access road at least a couple of times a year. And then the county will continue to provide the ecology blocks and the other concrete blocks that are down there, and continue to clean that out as needed, which has been generally only needed annually, once a year. In addition, the parties will share the cost of mapping. So I don't want to use the term mapping necessarily, but we're going to conduct drone flyovers to measure whether there's any slope creep in the hill using LiDAR. And so that will take place, I think, once every 2 years to keep track of the slope. And then there's a requirement for the parties to meet at least once every 2 years to discuss how the maintenance is going, whether there's any adjustments needed to costs, if there were other mitigation measures that were deemed necessary, how that cost sharing would occur. So that sort of summarizes the two issues encompassed by the interlocal agreement. The resolution you have before you is to approve both surplusing of the property, transfer, or I should say really exchanging it with the county in exchange for the property that they're going to be deeding to the city through the boundary line adjustment, and then also approving the interlocal agreement terms for both the boundary line adjustments and as well as the maintenance of the hillside. I think that covers the major points of the resolution in the interlocal, and when it's appropriate, I'm here to answer your questions.
Okay, in a couple of agenda items, or we've got to go through this whole list first.
I understand.
It kind of feels like you're selling us a bridge. Okay, the floor is open to testimony from the public. Each person has an opportunity to address council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. We'll just go in order. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Chance. I live in the county, and I'd like you to turn to page 28 of your packet. It refers to the analysis. Part of it is what Terry's already discussed, and it has to do with a piece of the third whereas in the resolution. When you look at Reed Park Hill maintenance on your packet, it says, as mentioned, the hillside below Reed Park has been slowly sloughing material down towards a portion of the Kittitas Valley Event Center access road for a number of years. And then the report suggested from Associated Earth Sciences that options to mitigate the risk, including adding ecology blocks along the wall, the eastern section of the hill slope toe. So if you go down to the next item, the interlocal agreement, the first bullet refers to what the city will do, but that what the city will do will be done twice a year after the county performs a clean out of the word debris behind the ecology blocks. Now, up in the Reed Park Hill Maintenance, we're talking about the sloughing material coming down. So the second bullet on this interlocal agreement on page 28, second bullet says, the county will provide the ecology blocks at the toe of the hill along the access road and remove the debris behind the blocks. Okay, what's debris? Is that maybe McDonald's lunch bags that the kids, if they're, running around the barn eating lunch, during lunch hour? Is that debris? Because my concern is when Angie and I last year, when we were, talking about Save Craig's Hill and the hillside falling, there was some sloughing off material that came down behind the ecology blocks. Well, we were listening while we're standing there, a lot of rocks and stuff were falling down. And so we noticed that a small tree had come down behind some of the ecology blocks across from the horse barns by Bloom Pavilion. Well, there was a young man, one of Katie Porterfield's employees, had like a little digger. Well, we come back later that afternoon and I'll be darned, he dug that tree and all that sloughing off material out from behind those ecology blocks. So as we have witnessed along the years, those ecology blocks are moving into that access road. So how are we going to define debris in this resolution? Are Katie Porterfield's employees going to come along and clean that debris out, or are they going to clean out sloughing material? So I don't know, maybe Delano has an idea that he can talk with you all about, but I think that word needs to be defined, and I know you probably won't do it tonight, but we need to be aware of when we pull out that sloughing off material, there's going to be more material up behind there that if all we do is ecology blocks every 2 years and we look at it, we fly drones over it, this is a Band-Aid fix to a larger problem. So I just wanted to bring that point to your attention, debris versus sloughing material. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Approach the.
My name is Matt. I am a resident of Kittitas County presently. I'm actually from Washington, D.C. When the attention of the Craig Hills came to my attention, I have looked at the hill myself. Some of the city attorney's ideas are fine, but I disagree when it comes to drones in a 2-year period. It should be more often. That hill is coming down more frequent than you guys believe. I have read the geologist reports. I do not agree with them. Your debris, as you call it, can be replaced up on that hill. But you're going to also need more blocks. But it can be done. I do believe that your surveyors should not be a county one. I think it should be an independent one. That way there's no conflict of interest between city and county. I also believe that other personnel should look at this problem because we are having a conflict between city and county. In a sense, it's going to take time to resolve everything. I'm just myself. Would like just put options out there. What the city council and the county do, they're right. However, I think the city and the county residents should also be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? Nope. Okay. Does staff have anything to add? Are there any persons in the audience who have non-repetitive information or evidence? Council, do you have questions of any of the staff or the public?
We have to do comments after a motion, correct?
You have to do comments when we're out of the public hearing, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may begin its discussion and deliberation.
So I do want to address your concern. So from a construction standpoint, debris could be a variance of terms. And so on campus, that would include rock, brick, trees, whatever's part of a demolished building or something like that, that may be part of what's behind those ecology blocks. Now, as far as an actual definition here, yeah, that could be added in to specify what those particular items are, but debris is kind of a connotation to capture all those things. As far as sloughing and the geotech expertise, that part I am not an expert in. So we have to trust the analysis of the people that do those things. Now, to the comment as far as third party versus county and those things like that, we have a vested interest, both city and county, to ensure that we do not have an issue. So I can understand the concerns as far as a county or a city survey and everything, but the whole point of this is that we are working unified to ensure that this is not an issue. So I feel pretty confident as far as us working together to establish this agreement so that we are maintaining care of this because we understand it. Hence why we want to clear up all these parcel concerns and questions that this and make this a little bit easier for us to have joint efforts to be able to take care of it.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2025-03 declaring portions of certain city-owned parcels at Reed Park as surplus to the city's needs and authorizing the mayor's signature on the interlocal cooperative agreement between the city and Kittitas County regarding the boundaries and shared maintenance responsibilities for the hillside below Reed Park.
Second.
We have a motion second to adopt resolution 2025-03 and additional steps as noted on page 27 in the agenda packet and stated by Councilmember Lillquist. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say I think I agree with Delano. This is what we've been waiting for. What we heard from folks during the Save Craig's Hill was we need to fix these boundary lines and we need to provide for maintenance and ensuring that hillside is not sloughing off, at least not too quickly. In geologic time, I mean, rocks fall, and I think as I understand it, this was a problem created maybe in the 1800s when they just cut. Well, maybe it was the stream. There was a stream there originally that cut into the toe of that hill. And when you oversteepen a hill, it starts sloughing off. And that, I mean, it is what it is now. And we need to make sure that it's just incremental rockfall and not a landslide that's going to happen, right? It's not going to slough all at once and land on those barns. So the monitoring, I think, is important, and I think that the survey by drone or LiDAR or whatever aerial photos or however it's done needs to be precise enough to be able to measure the movement. And all in all, I think this is what folks asked for, and we're trying to be responsive and trying to make sure that both the city and county's interests are protected. So I guess time will tell how fast it's moving. I mean, once we get a baseline and start doing this every 2 years, I think we'll be able to see whether things really are moving and at what rate. I
was going to add to that. So just so everyone's aware, all the dirt, all the ground around us is always moving in some incremental fashion. The LiDAR detection that we're going to be doing a part of this is very common for a lot of different areas of the country where you're trying to watch if there is an imminent danger associated with a mudslide or an avalanche or those kinds of gradual movements. But it is a course of how much earth is moving over how much time does it mean that it's an imminent danger. So very much similar thing to how people are able to say, hey, we're seeing a lot more movements around this volcano. We're probably going to start seeing eruptions. Of course, the earth will do whatever it wants to do, but to the best of our degree, which is LiDAR at this point, is managing and watching over it. So that's what we have.
You're not saying there's a volcano on Craig's Hill.
I am not saying there's a volcano on Craig's Hill.
Delano's Inferno.
These did the LiDAR, I'm sure, right?
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just add really quickly. I got a chance to sit in with a number of meetings between the city and the county, with city and the Legion, and a whole bunch of love for all the people of Save Craig's Hill that brought this issue to such attention. I personally believe that we're miles ahead of where we were. Getting the boundary lines was huge. Getting the shared responsibility in writing, that's huge. Now we've got the beginning of an active monitoring program and using technology. That's huge. Things can change as we watch that hill, and maybe they have to be readdressed from time to time. But I'm behind this agreement personally. I think it covers as many boxes as we possibly could, gets it in writing, and now we've got something to build on and move forward with. Nobody wants that hill falling down. All right, we love our rodeo grounds, we love our Legion, and nobody wants a landslide because it's just a big old mess. So I just want to encourage anyone that has been supportive of protecting this hill, that this, in my mind, this does it. And we can always address in the future, but I think this is a really good thing between all parties.
I would echo that assessment Councilmember Thompson just made in the 3 points that he outlined. I think this is a great accomplishment, and I want to say thank you to the staff for the years of work they put into this to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Okay. If there is no further discussion, then we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We move to item 9A, which is page 41 in the packet. This will be an opportunity for public comment. This is second reading and potential adoption of ordinance 4954, which are adjustments to the utilities code.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lily Fry, Housing and Grants Administrator. Before you this evening is the second reading of the water and sewer connection fee waiver. Council conducted first reading of this ordinance on February 3rd of 2025. There have been no changes to the ordinance since that reading. The ordinance would allow us to waive sewer plant impact fees and water plant impact and meter fees for affordable housing developments, including those eligible for the Washington State Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program or CHIP grants. This ordinance increases some flexibility in how we support affordable housing development and is a way that we can access state funds for local projects. Any questions from you?
Questions of staff only. Hearing none, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this issue? No one, council, or anybody online?
Yeah.
Oh, did you
Question.
step to the microphone if you're going to ask a question, please?
Yeah, it's maybe a question that you can answer. I had zoomed into the hearings on the state level on some of the bills, and I thought that they had a Senate bill that was talking about these waivers of connection fees for these specific reasons for refugee shelters. So do you know if that's a new bill or if they're making revisions to this RCW?
So the response was, we don't know, for everybody in the audience. Yep. Okay, council, need a motion?
I'll move to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4954, allowing for a waiver of the sewer plant investment fees and or water plant investment and meter fees in circumstances identified in the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion second to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4954, which relates to sewer plant and water plant investment meter fees related to affordable housing. Is there any discussion?
Just to the public comment regarding state bill, if that's in legislative session right now, it has been made into law. It might be into discussion. I'm not sure what bill you're referring to, but just as you're aware, the legislative session is going on right now, so nothing has been written into law as of yet.
Any further discussion?
This is an opportunity for us to further our goals with regard to providing affordable housing for the community without ratepayer involvement. So I support it.
Thank you. Will the clerk call the roll?
Bochamp,
Yes.
Goodloe. Yes. Lowquist,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington, amending Title IX of the Ellensburg Municipal Code regarding an exemption for water and sewer utility connection fees for affordable housing.
Page 48, item 9B, this is ordinance 4955, potential, it is second reading and potential adoption. This is the Public Works and Energy Services Department's reorganization, and there will be an opportunity for public comment.
Good afternoon, or good evening, council and mayor. Heidi Barron Sternaway, city manager. You do have before you the proposed second reading and adoption of ordinance 4955. This essentially enacts into our city code the separation of our public works and utility department into two separate departments, the Public Works and Energy Services. Initially, this merge was made in 2018 to reflect some needs of staff and better coordinate and provide oversight and span of control. In the last 5+ years, the landscape has really changed, especially in Washington State, and a lot is happening in energy. And in order to reflect and better prepare the community and our services for the future and to adjust to all of the changes in energy, we've made this proposal. It was enacted through your budget process, and this would codify the specific responsibilities for the Energy Services Director and the Public Works Director. And the costs for these changes and new positions and added responsibility has been adopted through your budget process. And the adoption of this ordinance, again, would establish that into code. So we'd have the ability to answer any questions you might have about this.
Council, questions of the city manager? None. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this issue? Anybody online? Okay, council.
Mr. Mayor, I move second reading of ordinance 4955, implementing city code changes for reorganization of Public Works and Utilities Department into Public Works and Energy Services Departments.
Second.
And I assume that second reading and adoption, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for second reading and adoption of ordinance 4955, which implements reorganization of Public Works and the Energy Services Departments. Is there any discussion?
I would just say, good work, staff. It's efficiency and organization.
Did we change the fire department?
We did.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no additional discussion, will the clerk call the roll?
Bochamp,
Yes.
Goodloe.
Yes.
Lowquist,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Palmer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington, amending the Ellensburg City Code by reorganizing Public Works and Utilities Department into separate departments known as Public Works and Energy Services, renaming the city's Public Works and Utilities Director to the Public Works Director, assigning the duties and management functions of the electric, gas, and telecom utilities to the Energy Services Director, and amending titles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 11, 14, and 15 of the Ellensburg City Code.
Thank you. So 180 pages later, item 9C, page 231 is ordinance 4956. This would be second reading and potential adoption of utility billing policies and procedures.
Good evening, Counselor and Mayor Elliott, Jerica Pasco, Finance Director for the City of Ellensburg. I want to thank Heidi for giving first reading for me as I was out sick, so I'm not sure exactly what all information she gave you on this, so hopefully it's not too much of a repeat, but again, the city provides utility services to approximately 11,000 customers across the 6 different municipal utilities. In December of 2023, the city implemented Origin Smart City utility billing software to align with industry best practices and update procedures previously limited by the legacy utility billing software. One of the big issues with this new software billing is the software automatically issues late notices and assesses late fees. Current city code enforces that monthly utility accounts are due and payable within 15 days following the date of the mailing of the utility bill. If not paid by the due date, the entire account shall be deemed delinquent, and a final notice is sent by regular mail, USPS, Postal Service within 5 business days after the billing date, and a $10 late fee is assessed. The city currently mails utility bills for approximately 90 or 84% of our customers. We've only had about 16% that have opted for paperless billing. The number of days that it takes a utility bill to reach a customer by mail seems to have significantly increased over the past several years. I believe it used to go to Yakima and back, and then got moved to where it goes to Seattle and back. And now most recently, some of our stuff has been returned from Spokane and back. So with all that moving around, it's at least a week or more out before people are receiving the utility bills. And as you know, we have current code says 15 days following the mailing. So it's not giving people time to receive their bills and turn around and mail us a payment without incurring an automatic late fee that's assessed by the system. So in addition, we also have many customers who really need the flexibility of having a fixed due date. So set up in the system, again, it takes the 15 days after that generates the bill. So we'd like to allow for them to have a flexibility of a fixed due date. A couple of examples include some other municipal governments like the county, fire district and things like that, that pay monthly on things and don't have time to get it before their boards or their council payment approved and get back to us in time, as well as we have a lot of customers on Social Security or other types of one-time monthly payments, and it only seems right to be able to align that with when they receive their income. So currently, these customers are charged a late fee unless they call us every single time and try to extend an extension, which is a lot of work on both ends. So several changes to the city code are needed to update this utility billing process to extend the utility bill and notice of due dates. We ask in this ordinance to extend the bill date from 15 to 22 calendar days, adding an additional 7 days, as well as extending the final notice due date from 7 to 14 days. So extending that an additional 7 days as well. Also allowing for a fixed monthly due date up to 14 calendar days past the normal due date. And we also updated the language in the code to from business days to calendar days in some areas so that language was consistent throughout. Another thing that I should mention is council previously approved amendments to the utility billing process and procedures, allowing us to temporarily pause in deeming accounts delinquent to allow for changes in our software. And because these change will take the programmers a little bit of while to update the system, we're going to implement another pause for probably a week or more once if this is approved, to allow those changes in the system. So staff recommends council move to conduct the second reading and adoption of ordinance 4946, amending utility billing policies and procedures. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Real quick correction, 4956 is the ordinance we're dealing with. Any questions of staff? Anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on this issue? Nobody online? Council.
Mr. Mayor, I move to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4956, amending utility billing policies and procedures.
Second.
Motion second to conduct second reading adoption of ordinance 4956, which amends utility billing policies and procedures. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Beauchamp,
Yes.
Goodloe,
Yes.
Lowquist,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to Chapter 2.12 Collection of Accounts, Utilities, and amending Sections 2.12.20 and 2.12.25 of the Ellensburg City Code.
Now we're going to have a report on how she spends all the money.
Yeah, and I put it on full screen more before I shared it.
Item 11A, which is page 237 in the packet, there is an opportunity for public comment. This is preliminary fourth quarter financial status and investment report.
See if Drew can help me. The escape button won't seem to work. I think I need to share it on Zoom first.
He's coming.
I put it on full screen before sharing it on Zoom and now my escape button won't work. Okay.
You broke it. Really did.
I really did wish.
Make sure everything's still.
That would change right there. More thing.
Okay, so beginning on page 239 of your agenda packets are the preliminary fourth quarter 2024 financial status and investment reports for the period ending December 31st of 2024. I'll probably repeat in here numerous times. I call this the preliminary report because we still have a lot of stuff to do after year end to make a final report. So you will receive the final numbers after our financial statements have been completed, submitted to the auditors, and completely audited. We'll bring those back to you. The preliminary fourth quarter reports were presented to the Finance Committee at the February 5th, 2025 meeting. So fourth quarter projections were made as of January 30th of 2025. The projections were set to the equal actual amounts on that date. Numbers, again, will continue to change as we make our year-end journal entries, as well as truing up our cost allocations, admin allocations to the other funds. General funds minus the managerial funds are above here in this chart. General fund expenditures came in below budget and revenues came in a budget as projected. Table 2 shows the year-to-date revenue remitted from the state of Washington sales tax activity. This is kind of an exciting report right now. If you remember at the end of third quarter, there was a lot of not doom and gloom, but numbers were not looking well while we were doing our budget, and we were very concerned. And you'll see here that in third quarter, some of our numbers really turned around in a lot of areas. So this chart is a good example of where they turned around. Overall, fourth quarter revenue distribution through the state was up 8% compared to the end of 2023. Just as an example, the end of third quarter, we were only up 1%. And at the end of second quarter, we were actually down 3%. So we made a big change in fourth quarter. Some of the significant areas were almost all of them. Actually, there's only one that decreased. The remaining of them increased. Affordable housing went from up 4% to up 17%. City assistance went up 6% to up 17%. Hotel motel lodging went from 9% to 11% over 2023. Housing and related services went from 1% to 11% over 2023. Public transportation tax went from 1% to 11%, as well as the other sales and use tax. The only one that saw an actual decrease was local criminal justice, and the liquor profits actually stayed the same. Table 3 shows all governmental fund tax revenues by type. So overall, the governmental fund tax revenue exceeded budget by approximately 1.54 million or 7.64%. At the end of third quarter, we were only looking to exceed budget by 1.86%. I'll give you some more detail in some of the other charts on how that broke down between sales tax being up and as well as B&O tax up. Table 4 shows the difference of budgeted less projection by tax purpose. So overall, sales tax came in 6.44% over budget. We used a 2% increase over 2023 for our third quarter projection. So we came in with all of the different sales tax purposes, 728,000 over budget. At the end of third quarter, we were looking at only 33,000 over budget, and we were looking at our regular retail sales tax, that 0.85%, as actually coming in under budget by about 250,000. So we did see almost a $500,000 increase in our sales tax that we weren't expecting in third quarter from some one-time purchases, again, that we will talk about. Table 5 digs further into sales tax by activity. So this is compared to the previous 2 years. So this is where you can really see that we saw a 10.77% increase over last year in our sales tax at year end. The end of third quarter, we were only 1.36% above the previous year, and we had budgeted for 2%. So that's where we were coming in low. I've highlighted the two that I want to make known most. The first one is that retail trade, which we talk about. I use that a lot for projections because that's mostly tells us how our local economy is doing. It still was under budget. It's the only one, or under last year. It was the only one that came in under the previous year. It was down 3.1% or around 87,000. But where we see the increase was in construction. It was up 26.5% over 2023. At the end of third quarter, it was only up 5%. And riding right along with that is that professional, scientific and tech services, which saw a 274% increase over last year. Third quarter, it was up 16.1% because we saw one large purchase, one-time purchase. I think we're going to see a couple more of those increment purchases. We have a couple large projects, and I think those are what we're seeing in the third quarter construction here. I know that the hospital is wrapping up a major project there, as well as Central, as well as we're seeing phases of Winco. So these are unfortunately only one-time numbers, but they really came in a good timing for us. I know we did receive in January another bump in our sales tax. So that will be nice for some of those individual purchases. Again, these numbers here are for November of 23 through October of 24 sales, because there's the 2-year lag from, or 2-month lag from when we receive it from the state. Table 6 shows year-to-date utility tax activity. This hasn't changed much from third quarter. The end of third quarter, we saw a 11.8% increase over 23, the end of fourth quarter, we see 11.67% increase. Again, like I mentioned before, these are due to the city implementing the new utility billing system in mid-December of 2023. So we had a lot of delayed billing. So we saw the utility tax revenue in first quarter delaying that. And that's why it has stayed pretty consistent over the quarters in 2024. In addition to that, we had that large PIF or plant investment fees that were due to those building code changes that people applied for. So we didn't see any more of those in fourth quarter, so it's stayed pretty consistent. As I always mention, telephone, cable, tax are down. They'll continue to stay down until there's nothing left of them really. Gambling tax has also taken a turn and is down. Looks like 12.83% compared to last year. Table 7 shows our revenues and expenditures, our budgeted and projection for the general fund. So this doesn't include the managerial funds of the general fund. So again, it doesn't include like our sales tax reserve fund. Overall general fund at this time came in around 1.27 million above budget for revenues. Majority of that has to do with the utility taxes. Some of that was utility taxes. It's the top line there. Came in 750,000 over budget. Then we're above budget on our licenses and our permits. The only one that we didn't reach was intergovernmental, and a lot of those may be grants that weren't received yet. Charges for fees and services came in over due to some of those late fees and fines and forfeits. Miscellaneous came in around 350,000 over budget for revenues. That majority of it, that is due to interest earned on our investments. And then the large one that I wanted to mention is the other receipts. You see there was nothing budgeted there, and it looks like we received 312,000. That is one that will be moved. That is part of the journal entries that we do at the end of the year, the cleanup. I was looking into this one. It said it was for insurance recoveries. And so it was actually insurance recovery that we received for Racket and Rec Center fire. And so those funds will be moved to the field house replacement fund. So we'll see a decrease there. We're doing a lot of other journal entries when we get a chance to finally review year-end numbers. Expenditures also came in under budget by about 2.3 million, which was expected. The largest part of that was under non-departmental. That first line there under expenditures, we came in under budget by about 650,000, but most of that is due to a grant fish pass-through that we haven't received and paid them yet for. We're still waiting on all of the paperwork that we need to do that. So overall, we were budgeted to use around $1 million in fund balance. And we actually came in ahead 2.5 million. But again, this doesn't include the sales tax reserve fund. This is just funds that are supporting general fund from sales tax. So when we combine those, you'll see the effects of that later, and that 312,000 in revenue will be moved from here. So we projected not to spend fund balance 2, though, in our carry through for our 25-26 budget. So even though we budgeted to spend it, we did not project to spend it, and we used these savings in our 25-26 budget. Table 8 shows our debt activity. We haven't had any change in our current bonded debt from last quarter, other than we made principal payments in November on all these. So as of the end of the year in GO bonds, we had about 7.3 million in debt, and in our revenue bonds, we have just under 22 million. This table shows that the city brought in approximately 3.78 million more than it spent in 2024. 4.1 million of that, however, is from utility and internal service revenues. And general fund, when you include the managerial funds and the sales tax reserve fund, like I just spoke about, we actually saw a net loss of 1.84 million. So However, of this loss, it included 2.8 million spending of the state and local fiscal recovery funds that we saw there, bringing us down to about $1 million. Then you remove that 300,000, so we're actually up around 700,000 till we do the rest of our year-end journal entries and some of our cost allocations, and some of the savings that we have will be sent to the utilities. So as an example, throughout the year, we do a transfer based on our budget for cost allocation. And then we true it up at the end of the year. So say like in utilities, in finance, we were short-staffed, so we spent way under budget, but those costs gets allocated out to the utilities. So we will be returning money to the utilities for those cost savings. So we won't know the total effects on the general fund until all of those are done. And because we are cash basis and Code City, we're allowed 20 days into the new year to push expenditures back. So we really haven't had a chance. We had a claims run on the 20th of January. So we're really only less than 4 weeks into doing our year-end financials. The other large one that I wanted to mention, when we say that we're 3.7 million above, you can see there in the utilities under enterprise funds, gas looks like it's up 4.5 million. That is due to a large refund or return for the carbon auctions that we got at the end of the year. So that money will go back out for another auction. So it isn't a true increase in revenue. City had around 88 million in investments at the end of the year, of which we had around 65.6 million in LGIP, or the local government investment pool. In December, we earned around 24,000 in interest. Overall, we earned year to date through December was around 3.8 million in interest, which also helped us recover when some of our sales tax was down. Of that 3.8 million that we earned in interest, I think it was around 800,000 of that went to the general fund. So staff recommends council accept fourth quarter preliminary financials as presented. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, questions of staff? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment online? Questions or a motion?
As always, thank you for the amazing amount of detail that you provide in these reports. It's fantastic.
I move to accept preliminary fourth quarter 2024 financial status and investment report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the preliminary fourth quarter financial status and investment report. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Item 11B, page 252 in the packet. This is consideration of revision to affordable housing agreement with Hope Source and an update on the Pathways Place project. There will be an opportunity for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Lily Fry, Housing and Grants Administrator. Before you tonight is an amendment to our affordable housing agreement with Hope Source for the Pathways Place project at 1200 South Ruby Street, or the old Knights Inn. The change would extend the timeline for the completion of the motel renovation to allow Hope Source to combine the renovation work with the planned construction of additional units on the site. Hope Source initially purchased the Knights Inn site in 2022 with city and county contributed funds and planned to renovate the motel building when the purchase included the opportunity to add affordable housing units on the 4.9 acre parcel. This is coming to you now as we were waiting to hear the outcome of Hope Source's funding application to various entities, which Bill will cover in his presentation. Meanwhile, Hope Source and its partners have begun the permitting processes for the revised site plan with our city's planning department. The proposed amendment to our existing agreement includes a revised target completion date at the end of 2026. The outside completion date would be at the end of June 2027. We are joined tonight by Bill Hinkle from Hope Source, who will share the revised project plan and status and be able to answer more of your questions. And I will pull up your presentation. Find my phone. There we go.
Sticky tight.
Steps of the night.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. For the record, I'm Bill Hinkle. I reside in Cle Elum, Washington. I am the Affordable Housing Director for Hope Source since January. If you remember, I missed that hearing as an employee, but I was there that you had. That was fun. I'm happy to say that this project is coming along. As you know better than I, and I had my boss come along because there was questions about history, because this has changed. The product has changed. The grant got moved in location, but right now I just want to talk about this. And if you have other questions, we can get to those. Okay. This is a nice little layout, pictorial rendering of what this might look like very soon, at least in very soon, 2027. We are partnered with the Hope Source with Stewardship Development. These are great partners. They are very professional and experienced in developing these kind of projects. We're the limited partner. Stewardship is they're a limited partner providing investment and expertise, and we are overseeing the planning, design, and construction, as well as how the money's spent. I have to be honest with you. I'm new to this kind of thing, this funding stacks that they do in affordable housing. But the good thing I can tell you, it's amazing how many partners step up and play: the county, the city, the state, the feds. So we're very honored to have received full funding for this project. We have the latest plan, and the one we've submitted, and we're submitting permits for 78 apartment homes serving low-income families, 20 units dedicated to homeless. The motel has 16 units. We're converting the 16 units that were planned initially into 32 units and 1 2-bedroom, and the 2-story buildings of new construction with 45 units, 31 bedrooms and 15 two-bedrooms. These are going to serve, 39 of these units are going to serve people at 30% AMI, average median income, which in this county, does anybody know what it is? It's
Too high.
It's astounding.
99,000.
How much?
60.
Someone's paying attention. It's 99.8 thousand. I was shocked. So it's high. We'll go over the rents in a minute. So we have 39 units at 30% and 39 units at 50%. So we still have within that 12 reserved units for veterans in the new construction piece, and 4 to 5 are set aside for CHOTO and PHS, permanent supportive housing projects. So, or individuals. Now let's go on. This is a motel floor plan. As you know, we opted to go for the studios here versus the just 16, so we have 32. More is better. There's quite a need. I think, as I remember, 72% of our community is 70% of the community's residents are now considered housing cost burdened. And with the average AMI of 99.8 thousand, I understand why. It's really sad. The most recent Ellensburg needs assessment highlights a critical shortage of studios, 1, and also 2-bedroom units for individuals and families. earning 30 to 50%. So we're trying to address this as best we can with this project. I like this idea going from 16 units to 78 units. I think it's going to make a big dent in our issues, and especially in the lower county here. The new construction floor plan. I wish I could show you a better picture, but you did see the first slide that showed how these are laid out. Some 2 bedrooms and studios. There's a mixture there you can see. And then these are the household incomes and rents. This is the best part. Studios for the 30% income are $459, 1 bedroom's $486, and then $584 for the 2 bedrooms. And then the 50% at $806, $585 or $858 and $1,029. So I think we're going to get at a good population here, but it's something that people can afford, especially today. It's needed. Wish we had these in the Upper County, but we're getting ready to build some there too. This is our construction schedule, and I wish I could say it was better. If any of you ever worked on these projects, you know what a terrible pain it is to try to get funding resources through the state. The state does. This is a 9% tax credit project, and they do these every 2 years. They do the 4% the other years. So sometimes you have to wait for the clock. And so we did. I'm happy to say we have full funding from all our partners that have asked us to be part of this. Did I miss a slide somewhere? I think I might have. Let's see, previous. Let's go, previous. That's the one I walked over. I was looking for that. This is the funding sources. So as you can see, money doesn't grow on trees. It takes a commitment from various organizations, and I'm happy that the county and both the city added to this. I'm going to ask my boss to come up here. This is John Raymond. You all seen him before. John, you were here for the process of getting some of these funds, and I wasn't. So
sure. John Raymond. I'm with Hope Source. I'm president here in Ellensburg. The original project, original funding from the city and the county came to us for the purchase of the Pearl Street, or use on the Pearl Street property, which is a small lot. As we were moving forward with that project, we became aware of the Knights Inn property that was available for sale, and working with the city and the county, we're able to acquire the funds to purchase that Knights Inn Hotel plus the additional 5 acres. We're moving along, working on the permitting and construction of the original units at the Knights Inn when we were approached by a development partner who brought the expertise to the table that was able to put together a funding stack and get the awards that you see here so that we can actually develop the full property in another 1.5 year timeline rather than the 4 to 5 year timeline that the original timeline laid out for us. So with the help of all these partners and this new fantastic development partner, we'll be able to move this project along a lot more quickly than we had originally intended.
thanks, John.
Hey, you're welcome.
You know, don't ask me what all those things are up there either. This is part of the frustration. I have a little cheat sheet on my computer that says, you know, all the little abbreviations in this industry. They got more of them you can shake a stick at. You know, in the law, we just talk plain English. Come on now. Bill, I'm here for any questions you might have.
Council, any questions?
Thank you, Bill. Fantastic information, and congratulations on Hope Source to get to this critical point of being able to start moving forward on this. Can you go back to the slide that shows the AMI?
Yes. Can I?
Oops.
I think I can. Previous.
And this is really just for the citizens that are watching this. This is remarkable as far as the targets for our community.
Back so many slides. I want a couple of you to notice that.
Yeah. So just to understand where the average 1-bedroom rental price is right now and what this means to be able to help out our community, this will be exceptional for helping out those that have struggled with affordable housing. So this is a massive win for our community, for all of our collaborative efforts. So just kudos to everyone and
Absolutely.
their effort on this.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, so if I cut it right in the presentation, the motel is now going to be 32 studio apartments versus 16 one bedrooms.
Yeah, and 1 2-bedroom.
Okay. That will have to be documented somewhere. This says it's supposed to be an extension of the previous project. One question, I shouldn't say one, another question I have is how did this come about when in June, Hope Source wanted to stick the sleep center with a bunch of sheds on the exact same piece of property? That seems like a very quick jump from one project to now 3 buildings, change the remodel on the hotel, and there's money coming out when the previous extension said due to lack of funding or supply shortages. Just seems like kind of a jump, and I want to understand, is this realistic?
Councilmember Thompson, your first question was?
First question was on the motel. Everything that I've had here in the packet
yes.
is the 16 units.
It's documented with the state now in particular, because when we had changed our application and we decided to go with a higher number of studios to meet the need in the community. I think we talked with Lily about it. Where's Lily? Somewhere here. Yeah, there she is. So, you know.
If I might add to that, the agreement actually says not fewer than 16 units. So it provides that there could be more units.
Always good to have the legal guy in town. Thank you.
We could get that initial agreement. I just want to understand the history, because it seems like it's jumped the number of times. I want projects to get done. I want affordable housing. I'm all for it. But I also want to make sure that we're going after, realistic goals. Up until this point, we've got a piece of property that combined, we got 1.5 million into. And as of now, it's extensions and new designs, especially with, like I said, that jump. How do we go from the sleep center as the target in June to this? I mean, this is a very big build out versus like the sheds, or I just understand how we got there.
Go ahead. You answered that. Okay.
Yeah. So the original proposal was to remodel the Knights Inn, and then 4 to 5 years down the road, look for funding to be able to build out more units on that same property. With the addition of this new development partner and their ability to bring all these sources that have been awarded and have been confirmed, so we do have a fully funded project that is ready to move forward. We're going to be able to bring 78 units to bear within the next 18 months. In terms of the sleep center issue, we did offer up a portion of the property to the far east, which was outside the boundaries of where the current construction is taking place, that could be utilized for a temporary sleep center operation if that's what the community chose to do. Obviously, we went through that series of discussions with the community, and the decision was not to move forward with that site and not to move forward with that proposal. And so we're certainly happy to continue with the development as we have discussed and have planned now. And then if there is discussion in the future about other use or other pieces of that same property that could help benefit the community, we can talk about doing that as well.
And on the funding component of that, and you said fully funded, what is the project cost, and are those funding sources willing to pick up cost overruns that inevitably come with large scale developments?
Well, the total budget is 25 million right now. And I would say that we're pretty confident that the budget we have is going to work. So, I mean, this isn't their first rodeo, nor is it some of ours.
Sure. And we had the earlier, a few months ago, there was the, I forget what it was, First and Pine, where it was a $25 million 5-story apartment building. Were these projects being planned in parallel, or is this didn't get it there, so we moved it here?
So, yeah, so I got here in July, remember?
Sure.
So
No,
let's
no, it's for both of you. I'm just curious, so I just want to fully understand.
We weren't swapping sites. The community garden site, we had another developer that was stepping up and working with us to develop that project. Those two projects would be in competition with each other for state funding, as we are in competition with 50 or 60 other projects across the state. And so that would be difficult to fund both of those projects at the same time. We weren't awarded the community gardens location. So luckily, we were able to get all the funding that we needed for the Pathways project, which is going to bring more units into the community. And I think it'd be more beneficial for us in the long run.
Sure. And so the anticipated funding for the First and Pine, it's the same funding partners that you were going to utilize for that project for this one?
No. No, I think you're getting maybe confused with another project we put in for. I'm not sure.
Well, there are a number of different types of funding sources that are used on different projects. So there's housing trust funds, there's 9% bonds, there's 4% bonds. There are multiple different types of funding sources. And not all projects use homeless funding, not all projects use workforce development funding, not all projects use home funding, not all projects use what is it? I can't remember the acronym. Yes. Yeah. It's Apple Health and Home funding. So different types of projects use different types of funding sources based upon the population that they're trying to serve and the availability of funds and the community's needs. So I can't say that the exact same funding sources would have been used on both projects. Some of them might have been the same. They both might have been looking at 4% or 9% tax credits. But again, the housing trust funds look at these different projects, they compete with each other, and we compete across the state with other projects as well. So the Pathways project was successful because we had a renovation portion to that project, bringing more units at a lower cost overall. And we were able to layer Apple Health and Home, home funds, housing trust funds, and tax credits onto that project, to be able to get it fully funded and get it ready to move forward.
Yeah. I don't want to monopolize. Anybody else have questions?
I might have misunderstood your question. I thought you were talking about our construction partners, so forgive me.
No, not construction. It was
Yeah,
just the two, we had the 5-story apartment that didn't go through. And then this one, the 3 buildings. And I was just trying to understand like where a connection was, because they were planning so close together. I just want to make sure I have a full picture of what's going on. Like I said, I'm a proponent for, but I also like to look at the numbers and understand them.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
No, but I appreciate Josh's questions.
Anybody in the audience wish to speak? Online? Tell her. This is a 3-minute one.
Pat Kelleher, 6530 Wilson Creek Road. I've submitted some comments to the council to consider. This has nothing to do with funding. This is holding a corporation, Hope Source, a nonprofit. I've been around long enough to know when they started in Taylor Richardson and moved again. They've done some excellent things for the community. They've dropped the ball on this project. Okay. The city, for the $750,000, when $750,000 meant something, collected from the taxpayer, specifically designated for affordable housing under the RCW. They entered pretty extensive agreement. 4.3 of that agreement specifically states evidence of financing. So there is no financing issue on the original grant proposal. Okay, they were supposed to give written updates if situations changed. I can't find it. They're saying permitting and supply issues is holding up the project. Okay, they pulled permits. Now the project has changed to 32 units. I personally don't think it should have changed to 16. I think it should have been 32 from the get-go. Okay, the lawyer's correct. Deliver 16. Deliver 16 by a date. They got an extension on the date. They have 10 more months to convert Knights Inn, that eyesore, into at least 16 units. They had the funding in place. It's a matter of holding a corporation, just like you talked about utility bills and people paying their utility bills. It's an agreement you have with them. Hey, 5 years from now, I'll send you my money for my kilowatts that I burned. They took the grant. They need to perform. Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Council. Motion or discussion?
Question for Lily.
Yes.
I'm assuming the Affordable Housing Commission has approved this extension.
We'll bring it to them at the next meeting.
Okay. So it won't matter because
We wanted to keep them informed on the progress, but we wanted to make sure that it came to you to approve.
all right, thank you.
What happens if the extension's not granted?
Well, then the current dates would be enforceable, the current completion date, which is at the end of this year.
Would it lose funding?
I don't know. That's up to Hope Source to decide. I would think so, though.
Hope Source, would you guys want to stand up and talk to that a little bit as far as if you were held to the existing commitment?
Well, this isn't done in a vacuum. This has been done along talking with the city and with people to state. So I'm sure that this is a very strong application as far as the state is concerned. So we'd probably lose that funding. I mean, this is a matter of 16 units or 78 units. That's really the question for you. You want to build 16 units because he read a contract that, is old. And it was changed with, in collaboration with some of the people sitting here. So, I mean, there's no effort here to try to hoodwink anybody. We're trying to provide a greater resource to the community. That's it.
So by holding the current contract, you're saying that we'd get the 16 units for the conversion of Knights Inn, but not the additional building that would happen on the 4.5 acres behind it.
Right.
And then you would essentially have to go out and find additional funding for the additional.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. I don't even know. I'd have to step back and say, what do we do? We have some money for that project. And when I first showed up, some of the staff thought that's what we were doing. So this happened fairly recently, right before I got there. So.
Further questions? Okay, council motion.
I'll move to authorize the city manager to sign the Ellensburg Pathways Affordable Housing Agreement, Second Amendment.
Second.
We have a motion second to authorize the city manager to sign the Ellensburg Pathways Affordable Housing Agreement with the Second Amendment, or this is the Second Amendment. Discussion.
Yeah, I guess my point of discussion here is a couple of points. The Affordable Housing Commission hasn't had a chance to review it, and they're there to provide a recommendation to us. So we don't have that. We're kind of, are we putting the cart before the horse in some ways? I also have concerns about just the overall breadth and scope of the project. And I mean, more always sounds good, but you know, where have we gotten from here and where are we going now? And I don't know if by 27, we're going to have those units. So at a minimum, I would say there's a lot of, at least for me, at least there's a lot of questions on timelines and numbers, and a lot just got thrown. I would like to table it for one meeting, let the Affordable Housing Commission, they come back and say, yes, everything sounds great. And we've had a chance to kind of look at the overall scope of the project because it's such a big change. Then I, may very well be for it. But I think at this moment for me, without kind of going through, the commission and having the chance to explore, it's a big change. I would be a no, not because I don't want 78 units, it's because I don't understand the full project at this point. It's changed. It's not an extension. It's a whole new, it's a whole new deal. So I would at a minimum say, let's table it, let the Affordable Housing Commission take a look at it, get another set of eyes and do a revote. I don't want to need this big of a project with this big of a change. That's my 2 cents.
Are you moving to amend the original motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to amend the original motion to table the project until the Affordable Housing Commission can come back and give us their advice on it.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, it's not a amendment. A motion to table is a separate motion. It's handled the same way. It requires a second and a vote, but it takes precedence over the original motion.
Okay. Are you willing to word it like that?
So how do I need to reword it to do it correct?
Well, I think it's being treated by the mayor as a motion to table then. Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hang on, is there a second to that?
The city clerk pointed out, there should be a specific date that is tabled into, or at least a specific meeting in the future.
Do we know when the Affordable Housing Commission meets next and the first meeting after that?
So that's what I was going to bring up is 2 quick notes on that. First, one, if the Affordable Housing Commission want to sit on, which I sit on, meets, it would be for a second meeting in the month of February because we've already met. So we'd be meeting again, which we can do. But the more important question that I have associated with your remarks is what is the deadline as far as making this decision in order to keep that funding in place?
So let's get a second to the motion first.
Okay.
And then we will have conversation about what the impacts of that are going to be.
Second, because I need to know that information for the time being.
What's the date you're talking about?
Talking about the date.
No,
So
Josh has to make the motion because he's motioned to table.
When's the next Affordable Housing Commission?
I assume we can get another meeting. That would be this Wednesday or next Wednesday? Next Wednesday.
It would be tomorrow, so we don't really have time to call to a meeting tomorrow for
So-
affordable housing. So it'd be first in March, March 5th.
So it would be the second council meeting in the month of March. The third week. Third week of March is when
That would be the 17th.
the 17th.
So I'd put it off for 1 month.
Yep, go through the process with the Affordable Housing Commission, get their feedback, and then vote. So it'd be that March 17th?
So a motion second to table the decision on this until March 17th council meeting. Is there any discussion?
Discussion is the question that I have for Hope Source. What is the deadline associated with the funding associated with this proposal?
I just want to point of order, and I hate to do this, but I don't think motion to table is debatable. That said, we had a letter from the city endorsing the project when we submitted for the funding. So if you take this vote, in essence, you're saying, well, we kind of are with you. I mean, it's a little confusing to me, the whole thing.
Me too.
So standby. So
I'd like to comment too.
hang on a sec. So the assertion that the motion to table is debatable or not, is that correct?
Well, that is correct, although I think as a point of order, if the request is for information, that could be provided, but yes.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about the merits of this.
Right.
We can ask questions about what the impact would be to approving the motion to table.
Right.
So no comments about it. You can ask questions.
Well, that straitjackets us.
Right.
That's what lawyers do.
Wait, I'm sorry, you saying we cannot ask for clarification questions?
Ask for clarification. You cannot discuss the merits of it, is what he's
All right.
saying.
Well, I still have to clarify.
Ask for points of clarification. We
So-
cannot debate whether or not this is a good idea or not. We just have to vote.
So Delana, you sit on the Affordable Housing Commission. They're not unaware of this project. This was in the works from the beginning when when we got the 750,000 and gave it to Hope Source. They had always planned to do this other project. So are you saying that the Affordable Housing Commission hasn't, I mean, maybe not formally weighed in on an extension, but they've heard about this project?
They've heard about the project, no doubt about it, as far as the Pathways project. What we're talking about is the details associated with this revision to it. And what Sarah brought up is whether or not should the Affordable Housing Commission be approving this before City Council. So it's kind of one of those, again, cart before the horse thing. But my bigger concern is regarding
So no comments. You can ask questions for clarification.
what is the deadline associated with this funding?
Well, let me restate this.
Okay.
The funding has been awarded by the State Department of Commerce. And somewhat, we had, in order to apply for the funding, we had to have a letter from the city saying that it was in compliance with your housing program.
Okay.
Supporting the project, which happened.
Okay.
So if you do take a vote to table, you're basically kind of contradicting what you've done officially already with the council, with the state. So, and again, this thing is not done in a vacuum. I'm kind of puzzled by the whole question, but I'm going to step back.
Understood.
Can I make a comment?
Hang on.
That issue that was raised about whether we're contradicting other city action?
Okay, answer that question if you know and if you have an answer.
I'm sorry. I was, as Mr. Henkel mentioned, we've got a letter, which is not on the dais, the project from the city. I don't know if it was from the manager, the mayor, or whoever. But the question is, his point was that if we vote to table, we're contradicting our support, our open support for the project. Are we creating a catch-22 for the city inadvertently by changing slightly the course that was referenced in the letter?
I'm not sure, because if it jeopardizes the funding in some way, then potentially yes, by delaying, like by tabling it, but I don't have a firm answer to that because I don't know what the funding requirements are.
Councilmember Goodloe.
Yes, it's my understanding that with the original request from Hope Source for this 16 units, the Affordable Housing Commission recommended approval of that project. I can't imagine that they're going to say, no, we don't want 78 units. So I don't understand why we're having this discussion, honestly. I understand the notion that it helps to have input from the commission that's in charge of this, but we don't follow that all the time anyway. So for a practical point, common sense, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Question.
Just a question for staff. Given that this has unfolded over the last several weeks, month, two, is there a reason that this wasn't, you mentioned that you brought it to the council first and by chance to the affordable housing next?
Mostly based on your meeting schedule. We had a packed meeting and it was the timing of bringing these through. We have informed the Affordable Housing Commission about the opportunities for funding for this project that we have supported throughout. We applied for a CHIP grant and received it for this project. And that was with support and discussion, including of the water and sewer connection ordinance that we discussed earlier. They received for this project.
Excuse me. And just to clarify, the next meeting of the Affordable Housing Commission is when?
March 5th, I believe.
Yeah, this is not on their agenda. So this was not.
It is on their agenda.
It is on their agenda. That's where our next meeting in March comes in. Okay.
It was mostly just to inform them for, yeah.
Okay, so we are taking a vote on the motion to table this until March 17th. All those I'm going to do a roll call.
An I vote means you're voting to table.
I love going first.
Oh, come on.
I don't want to table it, so no.
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 Not gonna matter. I'll say no, but I'm disappointed with the amount of information that I've been able to glean from this.
Okay, so we're back to actually openly discussing the original motion, which is the authorization to sign it, so you can further express your concerns. Now there's no question.
Is the original motion intact?
The original
You know,
motion is intact.
I would like to comment.
Yes.
We have approved funding for projects. The first proposal that we looked at for First and Pine, or maybe it was the second, Matt's proposal for the Pine Street, he didn't have his funding stack in place when he put that on the table. And sure enough, it never happened and the project never developed. They have their funding stack in place. It's there and they're ready to go. That is really an unusual thing in this industry for that to happen. And I applaud them for that. And I fully support the motion to approve the extension.
Go ahead.
And I'll say, I can't even imagine how difficult it is to get a funding stack and all the pieces put together. And doing the project together, the renovation with the new construction has to save the taxpayer money because you got one contractor on site to do it. I think that it is a no-brainer to extend the deadline a little bit to get this, what will be a great project for the community on the ground.
Yeah, so I want to provide some feedback for everyone is because I'm sure you're kind of wondering about my thoughts going back and forth on this since I sit on Affordable Housing Commission. So absolutely in support of more units. The question that I have in my mind was rolling around the figures that I have that we have on Affordable Housing Commission for other projects, knowing that we still have to deal with the homeless shelter because we're going to have to deal with that issue. And so really this is about what funding do we have now? What funding will we have for this winter, the upcoming years, and ensuring that we're not putting ourselves in a predicament as Affordable Housing Commission that we're going to regret this decision. I feel confident as I'm kind of going through my mind, this being out to 27, if it's already stacked and if it's already available as far as funding, that's fine because we still have ample amount of money to put to things that we could still address for affordable housing between now and when this project is done. And also if we need to deal with homeless shelter events. So that's what I was kind of rolling around in my mind. But the other part of this that I still don't have definitive answer on, but since we already had the funding signed off, then I'm totally fine with that. So
any other discussion?
I'll just echo what was said earlier. I think that going back to the original concept for the property, the longer term build, I just don't see this as a significant deviation from the original concept. People often criticize government for not being nimble, not being able to act in real time. And I think we can all see the big picture hasn't been lost here. And I think the ability for us to, $25 million is not insignificant in any sense of the word. So it's great that we're talking about it. We are paying attention to what's happening, but a lot of this has been happening in real time. So I think I'm comfortable supporting it as well.
There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed?
I want to abstain from this one.
Okay. So that motion passes. Item 11C, 2025 Community Development Long Range Planning Work Program. There will be an opportunity for public comment. This is page 256 in the packet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
You had to go last.
Was a coveted spot, but I managed to secure it. So, Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dan Carlson, Community Development Director for the record. Yeah, this is our annual update to the long-range planning work program. That's a chance for council to take a look and preview items before the planning commission takes things up. Also to track projects that we're working on that are long-range planning projects, and to be able to track where those go as we work on them. So the plan that you have tonight, under comprehensive plan amendments, we have our periodic update, which is the big comp plan update that's due in June 30th of 2026. We'll be working on that a lot this year. We also have our annual docket of comprehensive plan amendments. Those are the annual amendments. Those are due to be submitted by March 31st. And the city has to, according to code, make a decision on those by December 31st of the year. So those are included. Under the land development code amendments, we have an update to the official zoning map. That was actually on the work program from last year. That's an update to include annexations, boundary line adjustments. We had some annexations where the zoning doesn't match the land use designation, future land use map. So that's one that will be continuing this year. We have an update in order to adopt the requirements of House Bill 1998. That requires code amendments for co-living housing. It's essentially kind of dorm type housing with sleeping units and shared kitchens and common spaces. Those amendments are due by the end of this year. We have an update to conditional use permits, which was on our work plan last year. This was one through past code updates. We identified that the criteria and the conditions in the code regarding conditional use permits, some are too generic, some are too specific, some are too vague. So it's a chance to kind of look at those and update those. Then we also will have any citizen initiated code amendments that come in this year that are submitted to us. Bring those forward. Street standards, there is, my understanding is back in 2015, 2016, there were street standards that were adopted in the development or land development code, and Public Works had kind of narrowed those streets to be consistent with that. But now the width of those streets need to be widened to meet the current version of the International Fire Code. So there's an update to the development standards that Public Works is taking on, and we added that to our work program to do any updates to the land development code that would make those consistent. And then just any other kind of general housekeeping amendments, typos, and things that we find as we use the code each year. And we do have also a one historic preservation item on there for this year. That's the update of the nomination documentation for the 2 historic districts, and that's one that's was also on there last year. And then we also gave you a list of optional items to be worked on as kind of the other items are completed and staff time becomes available. That looks a lot like it did last year. Plan unit development ordinance and the narrow street standards ordinance. It includes the development of a historic property inventory. A citizen initiated proposal about transfer of open space also was on the plan last year, and then the an I-90 West interchange sub-area plan was included in that as well. So that's the proposal for the work program, long-range planning work program for 2025, and staff recommends that council approve the work program.
Council, questions of staff?
So just reconciling E with your optional 2, widening the street standards and narrowing the street standards. Just, I guess, when you do E is on the list. I guess perhaps there just needs to be a discussion about what is the appropriate width for. I mean, we got to meet state law and international fire code, but there's also other elements of the street that maybe we need to consider the parking strips and the parking on which side and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was what I thought. That will be an opportunity to look at those when we're looking at the road standards anyway, to look at see what's, kind of what's possible as far as narrowing of some streets or some elements of streets.
And I also just want to make a pitch, and we talked the other day of what are our strategies for attracting services to the north end of the community. I mean, this comes from a comment by a citizen when we were annexing or zoning, approving more houses up there, and the comment was, let's get some services up there and not just houses. And so, just, I don't know where to plug that in, but I'd like to give some consideration to that as we move through the comp plan process.
Any other questions of staff?
Good question. Sorry, I apologize. I stepped out for a second, but on the optional amendments, the planned unit development ordinance, I was just, if you covered this, I apologize. I'm just curious. We've attempted this in the past and it hasn't been successful, but I guess my question is there new thinking on this? I know we want maximum toolbox with lots of options, but is there something that we're going to do differently?
Yeah, that was
go
the
there?
thinking with including that was to take a look at adopting a new ordinance. It was my understanding that the previous ordinance had been kind of difficult to use and was very rarely used. So
Like
would be
never.
to look at an ordinance that, gives flexibility to specific standards, for meeting objectives, but isn't as,
Okay.
more user friendly.
So
Developing something new.
I think the PUD ordinance was in effect when I was on the planning commission a while ago, and it had been a long time since it was, I don't know, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there's a newer or retro version that could be
I think
effective.
Timothy Park's planned unit, right?
I think it was the last one, right?
Yeah, it was the only
One and
one.
only. So, okay. I was just curious. It's so optional. We'll see if it makes it to us.
Additional questions? Seeing none, anybody in the audience? Really? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll go ahead and move to approve the 2025 Community Development Long Range Work Plan Program.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the 2025 Development Long Range Work Plan. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By two will vote aye, opposed. That motion passes. We move on to the manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Heidi Barron, Sternaway City Manager. I will skip to the highlights here. Item number 4, I'm asking for some direction from council. We did have a discussion with legal representation for the Yakima Nation Tribal Council. And they are recommending that we have not a formal full meeting. And so the request was sent out asking council to designate less than a quorum. So that means 3 members to represent the city in a joint meeting on the 4th of March at 1:30 p.m.
And I'm not, I'm interested in going, but I would actually step aside, but I do believe that in this case, it matters that the mayor goes.
I think it does.
It does. It absolutely
I
does.
probably need to be one of those 3.
I'm going to try to be available right now, but I unfortunately have a medical conflict.
So are 2 other people interested?
I'm available and interested, but I'd let
Same.
someone else go if
If I could share some decorum details after the meeting with folks for those that are going, because I had the pleasure of going to Yakima Nation building dedication on Friday, and just some tips and advice.
Great.
So we have 3 people interested for 2 positions.
I'll step aside, let someone else have a turn at it.
So
Kind of feels like a Thelma and Louise trip if the 3 of us go. I'm just kidding.
where we push you out of the
Yeah,
car or
exactly.
go over the cliff.
Okay, we got 3. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last item on the manager's report was really an opportunity if folks had reflections from the PTAC meeting today. And so we did a public notice in case there was a quorum of council, which there was. And we will work with the PTAC group to continue that discussion and looking at other options as well. So that's all I have to add. Again, opportunity for a discussion if council desires.
So just as a really brief follow-up to that, there is another PTAC meeting scheduled before we gave, what could be classified as a soft sort of deadline for them to come back with a recommendation. And so there's another opportunity to participate and have an additional conversation with members of PTAC. And we'll just need to, again, pay attention to quorum issues if more than 3 of us show up.
And Jim Herson gave a pretty good memo associated with the PTAC and some recommendations. So hopefully everybody on council got to see that. If not,
just make sure that gets distributed.
It's already out.
Yeah, and I would add, I think that the intent is the next PTAC meeting isn't until mid-March. So there was a suggestion to have an extra meeting. So staff is working on identifying a couple of 3 dates for that in the next 2 weeks or so. So that would be the next opportunity. I think the consensus during the meeting from PTAC members was Jim, as mentioned, the commission member, Jim Herson, put some concepts together and proposals, but there was really no consensus, if you will, among PTAC, at least to the point of making a formal recommendation to council. So I think the expectation is that's what the next meeting will do.
I would appreciate the extra meeting so that we can make a decision of what and when to put something on the ballot. And
that's the intent.
Yeah, I think that's understood.
Okay, council member reports. Councilmember Thompson.
None today.
Councilmember Palmer.
I already did affordable housing. We really were talking mostly about, gosh darn it, our 2024 review, and then just reviewing some modifications to the housing service application process, along with talking about project updates like we were talking about this evening. Steer I-90, we went over the wildlife crossings that have been implemented over the last couple of years on I-90. If you're curious about that information, I could share that with you, but we've had a lot more animals using the animal crossings, and apparently it's a interesting thing that we had a wolverine and a coyote that were killed by vehicles. We hadn't had that in the state of Washington, so that's apparently a pretty large thing to happen. And there's 75 animals were hit in the last year, and it's about a $3 million impact as far as costs. And so
are they not using the crossing?
Well, the animals are using the crossing, but where they're not using the crossing, there's an impact. So this is reducing the amount of animal impacts. And so that's what that presentation, I apologize.
Public transportation.
We are reducing the amount of animals hit with all these animal crossings. And so that was what they were demonstrating. But they did show that in this particular year, a wolverine and a coyote were not hit. A wolverine and coyote were spotted in the state of Washington. Forgive me.
Driving down I-90.
And then
coyotes.
Yeah. UAC utility meeting is coming up along with the Law and Justice Committee meeting. Sorry. Go ahead.
Councilmember Miller.
Well, my meetings were mostly reported through tonight. So Finance, Planning Commission, Work Program, Arts Commission, PTAC today. Wanted to thank the mayor and council members that were able to, and staff for participating in that. I will pass along one thing, and I did share this with the Arts Commission chair, but I'll maybe share it with staff here. I had last week just randomly ran into someone in town asking for an update on our Unity Park art project. And what I had heard through the grapevine was the artist is working diligently in Montana, working on this clay. So I think it'd be a great item to possibly a sort of a progress report might be something we could slip into our community newsletter. And I'm guessing the artist, my understanding is it isn't quite ready for photographic treatment, but it's like a lump of clay. But the idea that it's being worked on, I think, is what people are wondering. I mean, the question was, is that still happening? And my understanding is we're still looking at kiln work being done in Montana because it's like a mega kiln, and it's going to be transported by truck here sometime in the May timeframe, April, May. So I think we're looking at a spring, summer entry reveal, but installation reveal. But I think it'd be great. I think people are interested in it, so it'd be great to get.
And I think our contract says June, July installation.
Yeah, I think there's an installation period, but there's transport involved. So yeah, people are wanting to know. Yeah, thanks. That's all I have.
I attended an airport advisory meeting. We're still down one member if anyone is interested in the airport. Attended the PTAC meeting today, and I just some of the comments tonight that I agree we should probably make some posts about the federal holidays. I have no objection to anyway. And just the city did adopt a list of proclamations and holidays to celebrate. And if we need to update that or just add the 11 or whatever, I'm fine. There's no political agenda here. It was an oversight. So.
Yeah. So I have a left board meeting in the morning and COG tomorrow night. The Affordable Housing Commission committee meeting was canceled because of the presidential holiday yesterday. And we had the commission meeting last week, had a really good conversation with the mayor about the impact of some of the policies that are being put in place at the national level on our community. Some members of our community are very afraid of what might be coming down the line for them. And there was concern among the commission for those members and a desire for the council to find a way to express support for that group. So we had a good visit with the mayor. No decisions were made. Subcommittee is working on bringing back to the commission some ideas about how that might happen. The other thing I want to do is it's been brought to my attention that there's some question about the way I voted on the Pizza Clatch funding issue a few weeks back. That since I'm a member of the board of Helen House, that there might have been a conflict of interest for me to vote on that. I did not feel that way. All of the funding that we approved for that program goes straight to that program. Helen House benefits in no way from the vote that we made. So I don't believe it was a conflict of interest. I could understand, I guess, how people might think it was, but Helen House benefits in no way from the funding that we allocated for the Pizza Clatch program.
Councilmember Goodloe, did you say that you have a left meeting in the morning? That's not till the 26th.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Wow.
I had it on my calendar for in the morning.
Nice.
I'm so glad I said that because I would have showed up at 8 o'clock.
It's good that you listened to her.
Yeah,
She knows what.
it's on the 26th.
I was like, huh. I don't,
All right.
I don't think I have that on my calendar. but-
Councilmember Lachance.
Okay, so I'm going to just start with echoing off of Councilmember Lillquist. I am also sit on the board at Helen House, and I apologize for anyone that we were not transparent about that, but I did not feel that there was a need with that particular type of vote. So again, like Nancy said, that we didn't feel like it was a conflict of interest, as Helen House is not benefiting. It's, they're just the facilitators of the program. So with that, lodging tax, we're back to meeting every other month because we're kind of in our slow time for that. The library, unfortunately, I had to miss the meeting this week, but they did a big recap on how successful their 115th birthday party was. And so it was a fun celebration. KitCom, our biggest news right now is we're making some great progress on the staffing, which is huge. So we've got two new dispatchers. Rich, are those the ones that are visiting this? No, those are okay. Additional dispatchers. We have one going through training, and then we have 4 waiting for spots in training. So staffing is looking good for KitCom, yes. And then parks, I don't know. Josh, did you hear anything this week at all? I didn't hear anything, so I don't think we had a meeting. Yeah, so I should have checked into that, but I had a kind of a busy week. So.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up on the holiday thing, because I would like to sort of, everybody read the policy. We'll take a look at it. Like I said, the proclamation thing, I'm just shelving everything for a while. And everybody that was on the docket for March has been notified why and that I made that decision, and it's not the council's fault, it's my fault. So if they're not happy with it. I was asked by the city manager to consider, and I need about 10 minutes if you guys want, and a brief overview of what KitCom is and where it's going. I can provide that for you, and we can just plug it into a short meeting. I'll just have it ready. Okay.
Have it on the agenda.
For whatever meeting looks short. Okay. I did attend the DEI and PTAC. That's been gone over. EMS was canceled due to weather. DDAC was canceled due to illness. And we still got to do COG. And just as an FYI, I have to be in Olympia to do some lobbying for 911 stuff. So there'll be a couple days if you need me to touch base with anybody on city stuff and either irritate them or make them feel good. And we are adjourned. Yes.
We'll be at COG, right?